I'm Non-Zero Sum James, your companion on this exploration of win-win games. Moral licensing, the makings of a very negative-sum game. In 1957, Leon Festinger published A Theory of Cognitive Dissonance, a groundbreaking study that demonstrated an innate human drive to maintain consistency in our beliefs, attitudes, and actions. Successive decades of peer review and replication have revealed a deep human need to perceive ourselves as good. And yet, in a world of people who perceive themselves as good, there seem to be so many bad actors out there, doing bad things, voting the bad way, and thinking that you're bad when you're not. Libtards battle deplorables, Russians fight Ukrainians, freedom of choice advocates have fiery debates with right-to-lifers, all following their own moral compass. How do so many people who are trying to be good cause so much negativity? Is it simply unresolvable because morality is subjective, as we discussed in a previous episode, and we're all just aiming at different targets in a moral chaos? Or is there something else at play? I'm going to posit that this has a lot to do with moral licensing. Now, what is moral licensing? In Sinning Saints and Saintly Sinners, the Paradox of Moral Self-Regulation, Sonia Sachdeva and colleagues found that participants who took part in altruistic behaviour at the beginning of a study were less likely to make virtuous choices when presented with ethical situations later on. The implication was that the good deed performed earlier gave participants a sense of having earned moral credit, which made them feel less obligated to choose virtuously later on. This study focused on what I'll call positive moral licensing, where a person consciously or unconsciously justifies bad behaviour with reference to previous good behaviour, like having a donut after a workout, or staying up late playing video games after a productive day at work. Neuroscientist Sam Harris takes this into account when giving to charity. By making regular automatic payments, he hopes to not require reconfirmation of his virtuous choice, and so won't morally license bad behaviour later on. I'm going to propose that there is an important mirror image to this positive moral licensing. Its evil, or even eviler, twin. Negative moral licensing. A negative corollary of moral licensing is where people use other people's bad behaviour, or rather their perception that others have behaved badly or have bad intentions, to justify their own bad behaviour, implicitly referencing their relative goodness as an excuse to cut moral corners. Never trust a cynic. Cynics excuse their own bad behaviour by saying everyone does it. Elon Musk. Musk's somewhat ironic comment is backed up by another study that focused on people with aversive personality traits, which include manipulative, psychopathic, and exploitative behaviours. These people nevertheless saw themselves as moral by maintaining beliefs that justified their behaviour. These aversive personalities were often sensitive to befallen justice, feeling victimised by others, and cynical about the honesty of others, believing most people were out to harm them, or that they were living in a competitive social jungle, therefore justifying their actions as preemptive or defensive. And this is not just limited to the personal realm either. It also plays out in geopolitics. In the wake of the 9/11 attacks, a sense of victimization and a distrust of the Muslim world led to restrictions on civil liberties in the US, with greater powers of surveillance and detention and even torture, and it eventually led to the US-led coalition's invasion of Iraq, a sovereign nation who had not attacked the US, effectively eschewing the UN Security Council's protocols for international military intervention. In Theories of International Relations, Scott Birchall states, with each subsequent terrorist assault, states which consider themselves innocent victims have been emboldened to interfere in each other's internal affairs, even preemptively. But isn't this just a zero-sum game? Negative moral licensing seems, on the face of it, to simply be a zero-sum game. Someone does something bad, and their opponent does something equally bad in retaliation. Then they're even, right? A zero-sum game is not such a bad problem to have. It's neutral by definition. But that's not what we see happen in real life. Instead, we see a downward spiral, because given some other aspects of human psychology, this is actually a negative sum game, and we'll explore why in the next episode.